Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Engineering Tech Show. And here are your hosts, Goshi King and Joe Green.
How does that work?
Like Bluetooth.
No, but
I mean, yeah, you probably maybe have like a little USB or something like that.
that goes into the phone.
I would guess. Or it could be the computer.
But then,
Something like that.
So then he calls people from the phone. I mean, from the computer, maybe.
Maybe. Or it
That's
could be. I imagine the phone probably has like additional input outputs.
I'm curious now.
If it doesn't, I mean, it's an expensive system, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, it is, voice over IP.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I think Pat, because I've seen him with it. I'm surprised more people have not done that.
Yeah, we are recording,
Oh. What time?
36.
Right.
So, Joe,
Goshen.
microturbines.
Reciprocating engines.
No. How about fuel cells?
Solar and wind.
Impossible engineers.
Yeah.
So.
Never gonna agree.
Yeah. All right. So what's happening today? Are we gonna talk about some power and free heat?
Power and heat for your little private cities,
Yeah.
decentralized systems.
What about seasteaders?
Seasteaders could do this too. Obviously, be not what I was thinking with someone on their little 20-foot yacht.
No. We're talking like a big city on water,
Yeah.
right? An independent libertarian city, right? A libertarian utopia on the island somewhere.
Yeah.
There's a lot of seasteader talk in the libertarian circles, as you know.
International waters areas.
International waters where you can gamble
No
and have
rule of
prostitutes
law
and no, there is rule of the there are rules.
No, like government outside.
Right, there are voluntarily agreed upon
Yeah.
things. So, okay, so what we're trying to do today is we're trying to see, and if you had a private city and you had a beef with the surrounding governments, or government, or county, city, state, and or if you were at some international water territory, private island, or some big fat platform with a whole bunch of, it's a city floating on the water, maybe, conceptually.
Like a high-tech water world.
Yeah, high tech. You know what? I like that. That's it. That's exactly it. So, how do you power it? Because you need electricity. And smart engineers, I don't know about the not so smart engineers, will tell you that solar and wind is not reliable, nor it's all that economical. And so, what are your other options? And if you have other options, how good are they? What are the dependencies? What are the technologies out there? And how can you power a city? And better yet, while you're powering it, get free heat out of it. That's because I live in such a cold state, man. I worry about heat. Even if I lived in like North Carolina, right, in the winter, I want my pool to be hot, man. I want my pool water to be 82 degrees. You know what I'm saying?
I would say, even when I lived in San Diego, granted it's a very luxurious climate. When you get spoiled, you turn on the heat, or you just turn on your oven for a little bit and heat up your apartment.
Yeah.
Most of the world, most of the U.S., you need heat.
You need heat.
Sometimes of the year.
Yeah.
And at least hot water is always a beautiful thing to have.
No, believe it or not, I come from a city where my parents grew up, and that city is almost 45 degrees Celsius. I don't know, that's 110 or something like that, in Fahrenheit. Hot in summer, right? It's kind of like Richmond, Virginia, but in winter, right? In December, January, it's 0 degrees Celsius, which is 32 degrees Fahrenheit. And so that is cold. If you live in an environment that's going to be 45 in July, Celsius, right? 0 degrees Celsius is cold.
It's a giant swing.
Giant swing. And so, yeah, heat's important.
Even when I was in San Diego, coming from New York, you're used to the winters and cold. Out in San Diego, it turns into the mid 60s, and people put on their winter jackets and hats. So I guess even out there, people do want heat in the winters.
Yeah.
Sort of relative.
So microturbines is what comes to mind, and a microturbine is this machine, guys, that, and I'll tell you exactly this not getting into too much weeds, but I'll tell you what that is in a moment. But what it does is it allows campuses, a set of buildings or a set of homes or a community, businesses, whatever, to produce power locally at the building or nearby, and also as a byproduct use the rejected heat to heat stuff, whether it be domestic water that's required all year long for showers, kitchen sinks, bathroom sinks, etc., to winter heat requirements to heat the building and so forth, right? And especially where it makes a lot of sense when you have a building or a group thereof that has an all year long heating requirement, right? Then it makes a lot of sense to use microturbine. Now, if you didn't have a use for rejected heat, then you can obviously dump it into the atmosphere, but the efficiencies drop like nothing, right? So, what do you think about that, Joe?
I think that's a very, very good point. When you're looking at your efficiencies, it's sort of how much you get out versus how much you put in. If you recover your heat, you almost double your overall thermal efficiency. And since you're using natural gas or oil, something like that, to make your electricity to generate whatever steam or high temp, high pressure airflow to drive your turbines, you might as well find some way to use this excess heat. You do have a source, you are, in a sense, you're making electricity anyways. You might as well recoup some of your what would be lost, and it does. It makes it efficient. Obviously, summertime is probably when it's a little bit tougher to find those needs for large amounts of heat. But if you have a community, you could probably think of something. Could be a pool, could be dryers, laundry, all of that stuff. Just extra ways to use what's available before you dump it.
Yeah. So I'm looking at this paper from Department of Defense, and there are some pretty cool facts about these things. And
Department of Energy or
I'm sorry.
Defense?
I'm sorry. Yeah, Department of Energy. What did I say? Defense. What's wrong with me? So there are some few things that I like to mention, and one of them is the use of these things. And according to this paper, I don't know when this was published necessarily, but it's fairly recent. I think it's 2016 or something like that, where it said that there are 360 sites in the United States that have this microturbine setup, and then you can have one and multiple microturbines, and then they vary from the capacities. And according to this paper, they could vary anywhere from 30 kilowatt to 330 kilowatt in size, physical size, and then you can exceed 1,000 kilowatt if you start to combine them. And so currently 8% of the total number of combined heat and power plants are over 8% of the that are used in America, and the aggregate capacity is about 92 megawatt. So it's still a lot.
It's a lot.
And it's not
small, but still pretty
right.
big.
Right. I mean, yeah, in the grand scheme of things, sure. But they've been around for a while, and I know it said somewhere how long they've been around, and they've been tested and so forth. But I like to just go through a paragraph and it just describes what that technology is real quick. So there is a picture. I'm sure you can't really see it, but you can look that up on your favorite browser, DuckDuckGo and Firefox. Hint, hint. it says figure 2 shows an illustration of microturbine. The heart of microturbine is a compressor turbine package, or turbocompressor, which is commonly mounted on a single shaft along with the electrical generator. The shaft, rotating at upward of 60,000 RPMs, is supported on either air bearing or conventional lubricated bearings. So I think there is some maybe a possibility of magnetic bearings here. The single moving part of the one shaft has the potential for reducing maintenance needs and enhancing overall reliability. Microturbines operate on the same thermodynamic cycle, the Brayton cycle, as large combustion turbines, and share many of the same basic components. In the Brayton cycle, atmospheric air is compressed, heated by burning fuel, natural gas or whatever, and then used to drive an expansion turbine that in turn drives both the inlet compressor and drive shaft connected to an electrical power generator. So, in short, that's what this is. It's essentially self-enclosed. It's got fuel injection mechanisms happening, and it's rotating this shaft and it's producing electricity. Very simple, very generic, right? But it's producing a lot of heat at the same time. So assume that there you have a 30. Actually, I'm familiar with one that's 65 kilowatt. Okay, and it's on ideal conditions, right? Which is 55 degrees out, and it's 60% relative humidity out, right? It's producing 65 kilowatt of power, right? And it's also producing 40 kilowatts of heat. You can tap into that. It's actually producing more, but you can tap up to a 40 kilowatt in certain conditions, right? So you can have this heat rejection module that's placed in conjunction with the power generation, and then you can, from exhaust gases and all the heat that's produced by the engine itself, you can extract that heat and then take it to whatever you need to use it for, right? Now it gets better, and at this point I'm going to make for other technologies that we talk about too. You can, in some cases, use the exhaust from this to run compressors, right? And in turn, even produce cooling from absorption chillers and those sort of methods. So the possibilities are limitless with this. You're not only getting heat from these, but you can also get cooling from these in summer months. You see what I'm saying? So it's a very good technology. I'm surprised that it's not really widely used, and maybe because the electricity is available so readily in America.
Plus, you need those two. You need your electrical load and your thermal load to kind of both happen at the same time to make them worthwhile.
Right.
So like you said, if you have like a heat-driven cooling system, you can probably play with it and find something that works out for your building, your community, your hospital, something like that.
The entire Canada, this is a blanket statement, obviously, but the entire Canada, the entire North America, okay, not North America, but the north of the America, where it's colder states, all the way from Maine through New York, through, Michigan, through Washington, I guess. I don't know. West Coast might be warmer. I don't know.
Yeah.
But at least up to where you have the Dakotas, right? It's cold most of the year, right? You can, if you have to reject the heat that's produced into the atmosphere 2-3 months out of the year, you've got 9 months that you can tap onto that heat, right? So in some cases it may actually still make sense.
Yeah, I think that's one definitely great aspect of these microturbines versus your main power plants is they're small, maybe the size of a refrigerator, and you can fit them in a building. I mean, it's not like you need a whole house-sized power plant for your building. You put them in a mechanical room or something like that. So it makes it much more convenient than, I guess, other plants. Plus, with that, you're able to be a lot closer to your loads. You're not producing power miles or states away, trying to transport it into your building. You get everything right on site. I think it's also how you can use the heat that power plants probably just have to toss out.
So, very good point. And you're an energy engineer, Joe, and you have come across this probably many times. and looked into it probably, and then maybe we should talk about it. So the power that's generated at a grid somewhere in Canada, and then it's transported to New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Vermont, I don't know, wherever, right? There are a lot of losses associated with that, right? So the efficiency at the plant may be 100%, whatever the percentage of that would be. By the time you get it, right, it has significantly dropped, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's roughly
What is it, 30%?
30%, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of it is, too, just your combustion process. I mean, the technology is pretty similar. Maybe on the large scale, you have a more efficient electrical, or I guess a better electrical efficiency. But, because like your power plants are not right in the heart of the city, they have no use for the thermal part of it all. So they have to either send it out through cooling towers or other means. They don't reuse it. While I would say to an extent your electrical efficiency is probably more kind of comparable. Obviously, transmitting power you're going to lose as well. You're going to get line losses, you have temperature gains, and just trying to send, I guess, electrons hundreds of miles, you're going to lose a couple here and there.
Right, so in order for you to utilize 30 kilowatt, the power plant has to produce 100.
Yeah.
So, and then 70 is lost somewhere in the transmission.
Yeah.
That does not sound very efficient.
It's in the whole, like, the making of electricity, transmitting it
right.
out. It is, I mean.
So what happens when you have a microturbine right on the spot? I'm looking at this chart again, and it says that the electric efficiency is 25%. That's very low.
Yeah.
Right?
Pretty bad.
So if you say, okay, if the power is I'm getting from the grid is 30% efficient, this is less efficient.
Yep.
Why would I want to go with this? What do you say to them?
What I say to them is you have to look at the bigger picture of it all. You have to realize that with the microturbines, you're not just making electricity, but you're also making heat.
Uh-huh.
So that's, like when you can
Thermal efficiency.
the two, yeah.
Yeah.
So it makes it a lot better.
On this particular example, which is used for as a 65 kW example, like I said, the electrical efficiency was a little shy of 25%, but then the thermal efficiency is 47%, and so your total efficiency is bumped to almost 72%. And now that is incredible in terms of what you're getting out of it.
Yeah.
Because think of all that 47% efficiency that you don't have to use boilers for.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to use even electricity to heat or anything to heat the whatever it is that you're trying to heat, right? And then in instances, if you plan it right, you can use the heat absorption type of technologies to generate cooling in the summer. And so possibilities are endless, and I like that. So overall efficiency is 72% compared to what you would get from grid.
Yep.
No, devil's advocate, Joe. Someone is going to come back and they say, well, but the carbon footprint, the greenhouse, emission and all those sort of things. Now you're polluting locally. You're polluting. You're putting NOx and carbon monoxide and oxygen and hydrogen and whatever else, dirty garbage, all kinds of VOCs right into the environment.
Yes.
What do you say to that?
You are, basically. But it's not, I guess that's it.
Do you want to touch base on the parts per million kind of table here?
Power of the power. If you want power, you can't really make it for free.
Right. So essentially, if you're not doing it in Canada, you might be doing it in the ocean somewhere at your.
So that's it's not in your backyard. Basically, it's someone else's problem.
But wait.
Someone else has to do with the.
But wait. Emissions. This is the one that's the Democrats don't like. They say, but you need fossil fuel to run these. Don't you need fossil fuel to produce electricity elsewhere?
Yeah, pretty much.
Unless it's hydro.
I guess hydro, wind, solar, that's when they...
Right? I suppose hydro is relatively much more reliable than your wind and solar. Wind and solar sucks.
Like our grid, New England grid, does get a lot of hydro.
Hydro.
So we have
so much water.
Yeah, I mean, especially Canada, I think, especially I'm sure northern New York, northern Vermont, up through there. One time, someone told me, I don't know how true it is, basically, we sort of import electrical from Canada off of the hydro plants.
I have a friend who works for Eversource.
Mhm.
He said Eversource does not produce electricity. They buy it from others.
Yeah.
They don't produce anything. They don't have a single plant, hydro or otherwise. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
So they're the third party, the middleman,
They manage it all, I guess.
and they're making banks.
Yeah. They make sure,
Not that anything wrong with that.
Goshi's plant is going to produce 100 megawatts tomorrow at 5 a.m. or whatever. And they
Yeah.
make sure it happens.
Okay, so you were going to talk about the carbon footprint. What's it like for 65 kW? How many parts per million does it reject into the atmosphere? Does it talk about that?
It does. They do parts per million at 15% oxygen. And, I mean, this is just relative. 9 parts per million of nitrous oxide, 40 parts per million of carbon monoxide. VOCs are at 7 parts per million. Seems like a very small amount.
Yeah, for a 65 kW, that's pretty good.
Yep.
Wow. Okay, so
I guess that's, relatively, like, gas.
it could be natural gas, it could be diesel too.
It's not that bad. And it's
Yeah.
it's not like they're burning coal in their little attic micro turbine or something like that.
That's right.
Relatively, it's a lot cleaner.
See, and this is a perfect way to segue right into the reciprocating engines then, because those they're more diverse in that. I think we'll get into what they are. They're essentially car engines, but over glorified car engines, and I think they're made two different ways. They're like the 4-stroke cycle, the regular cycle, or the diesel engine type. And either way, they're so diverse that you could even burn you don't need natural gas necessarily, or
I'm gonna use biofuel.
Biofuel, exactly, like used vegetable oils.
Vegetable oils, or your like methane off of the
Methane,
landfills,
that's right.
That stuff too.
So there is a benefit of using those when it comes to that, and and not relying on natural gas, or not that there's anything wrong with relying on natural gas and fossil fuel, but
let's say with natural gas, the only downfall is if someone, I guess, upstream of you decides to shut off your supply. Kind of stuck.
I mean, so a pirate can cut off your supply too, right?
Yeah.
A pirate can, maybe a government can cut off an oil delivery.
Look at California. Their electrical company decides to shut off their power so they don't create more fires.
Right. Right. So those things are out of my control.
Yep.
In anybody's control, right? But you look at all the different options and say what suits me the best, right? And then that's probably when the fuel cells come in.
Now, if you had they have compressed natural gas too. So if you go
transport
down to Goshi's compressed natural gas plant and sign up for annual contract deliveries.
That's right, and people do that all the time.
Yeah. Then you have a pretty, I guess, more comfort, more assurance knowing that every third Tuesday of the month I'm gonna be getting a delivery of natural gas for my turbine.
Yeah. Or if it's a small city and if they don't want to do either of those things, then what they could do is they could probably create a I don't know, I'm gonna take a wild guess. Oh, I got it. Chips factory. They make a bag of chips and then they export and consume themselves and so forth. And there's a whole lot of vegetable oil that goes to waste there, buddy.
I bet.
Use that to burn the sucker.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. All right, let's talk about reciprocating engines. One of the fascinating fact about that is that okay, let me read this line. There are nearly 2,400 reciprocating engines with heat and power installation in the U.S., representing 54% of the entire population of installed CHP systems. CHP stands for Combined Heat and Power. 54%. So they're a lot more common, versus 8%. They're a lot more common than your microturbines.
Yeah.
look, microturbines are smaller, right? They can fit through the double door. It can be installed inside and outside, right? But these sometimes are huge. I'm sure they make small ones too. The problem with these is because they're engine, there's way too many moving parts. There's a lot more maintenance involved with this. Would you agree?
Yes.
Is that probably why a lot of people don't use them?
Yeah, I mean, I guess they've probably been around for longer.
Oh yeah.
And they took up more space, so I'm sure it'd be less likely to have a reciprocating engine like that as in your building running all the time than you would a microturbine.
Well, I mean, assume that it's a big plant, right? And if it's a city that can afford a plant, big cities do have plants,
Cities,
and then you can
campuses.
provide, right? So, and one of the benefits I'm looking at right now is that it says, sizes range from 10 kilowatt, which is not a lot, to 10 megawatt. And multiple engines can be combined to deliver higher capacities. So there's that, right?
I think a lot of your, I guess, like big size emergency generators and generators in general are the reciprocating engine technologies.
I would say they're reliable, but a lot less reliable than your microturbines, just because of the maintenance that's required.
Every year, maybe taking it apart, cleaning it.
Yeah.
Replacing heads and all that stuff.
Right.
But I mean, I guess it's a lucrative business for your reciprocating engine manufacturer to sell you a maintenance plan along with the piece of equipment.
Yeah, that's it. But I do like the fact that you could burn all kinds of different oils to maintain. Okay, so let's talk about the efficiencies. Not very far off from for a single. So it's not apples to apples because that was 65 kW. Now this is a 100 kW unit, and at electric efficiency is 29.6, whereas it was 27 for the microturbine at 65 kW. And it improves as you go further. So at 633, it's at 34.5, and so forth. And then there's the thermal efficiency, which is also greater than our example for the microturbine, and it's at 53%. So overall, it's at 82%, 83 almost, versus 72 for the microturbine.
That is pretty good.
That is good, right? But again, maintenance.
Yep.
Maintenance is a big one because now you need a full-time guy. Maybe, or a contract.
Plant, basically, yeah.
Yeah.
Some guy up there all the time.
Yeah. No, one of the things that we didn't really touch yet, maybe we'll touch it at the end. Well, I don't want to forget it, so let's bring it up.
Yeah.
Is the cost.
Yes, that is important.
So tell me about the microturbine. What's the kilowatt install cost?
I will go with a 65.
Do you have an example of 100 in there?
60, 190.
61.
Or 200 basically. 65, 200, 250, 330, 1000.
All right, give me 1,000 because let's compare the one that's 1,100 here because that'll be closer to the 65 and 75. Too big of a difference.
It installed dollar per kW is 2,500.
And it's 2370 here.
So it's a little bit cheaper.
Very minimal, right?
And then the operation and maintenance, your O&M,
yeah,
not including fuel though, which
that's fine. I have the same thing, so it'll be apples to apples.
1.2 cents per kilowatt hour.
Yeah, so this is 1.9 here. So that's where you see that maintenance. So a whole 0.7 increase in the reciprocating engines.
Yeah,
that's major.
It's hard to recuperate those savings in your increased efficiency.
Look, I mean, there is probably a good payback with both of these, right? Depending on what your system is like, right? But
like it's the same. It's cheaper first cost. That might just be the more important factor for someone in their future city.
All right, jump to the emissions then. Let's talk about the NOCs and look at the 1,000 again. Tell me what you got.
So it's 9 parts per million for the nitrous oxide. CO is 40. VOCs are 7.
Wait, What table are you in?
4.
What part? There's emission after exhaust.
Oh, this just has emissions. So they have the part per million and then your pounds per megawatt hour.
Yeah, which one are you reading?
The parts per million.
Parts per million.
Do you want us to do pounds?
I didn't list them in here. That's why I'm still trying to find them. Yeah, let's do pounds.
Alright.
What do you got for CO2 emissions anyway? Electric only, or 1,000 kW.
1.08.
CO2?
Oh, electric only. Yeah, it is 1,407.
Okay, so I got 1,062. So this is better.
Yeah.
What about with CHP?
So
With thermal credit?
764.
Yeah, 491.
Okay.
So
Ooh.
that's a big dent. So okay, so get it without the thermal efficiency, you're screwed. Get that with the thermal efficiency, you're like king of the jungle.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yep.
Okay. Wow, that's incredible. What else did we miss out on these? So again, I think just so that everybody follows, I think we're talking too many technical things. You have a city, private city, be it on land, or in an island, or on a biggest boat you can ever build, right? A floating city on water in the international waters, right? You can produce your own electricity by natural gas, diesel, vegetable oil, right? Methane, things like that, and you can generate free heat from that. And if you play your cards right, you can even have free cooling.
With I was just thinking, with if you do have a giant floating city,
Yeah.
Maybe it probably is not as easy as this, but if you have like a little mini refinery, you can just cruise around to the oil rigs and almost have like a drive-through oil.
That's right.
It's just a little rig.
You know how like sometimes the delivery is available even in the ocean.
Yeah.
You ever seen an aircraft flying and there's a refueling jet comes up, or a big aircraft comes up and then refuels in the air?
Yeah.
That happens on the water too.
Ah.
So deliveries are not. That's not out of the.
Yeah.
That's not a. Or you can just have if you're gonna build a big city like that, you can have a big boat that just goes into town, picks up your oil, right? Make sure you don't have an Iranian flag on it, because the U.S. government will just seize your ship and
seize it.
Yeah, unbelievable, man. I mean, there's theft and then there's like a mega theft, right?
Yeah.
I mean, talk about bullies.
Yeah.
I'll get in trouble for saying these things. So all right. So then there's like a lot of people who are gonna say, well, these are all great, but then batteries. I like batteries because there are these. I got way too excited on this batteries.
You love batteries.
Yeah. No. You know why people love them, Joe?
I don't, honestly.
I tell you exactly why. People are sold into buying batteries because I think there is a lot of incentives. There's like a lot of welfare that you can collect to pay for those batteries.
A lot of solar subsidized.
Yeah.
Either you get your incentive from the utility, kickback from the federal government, state governments now.
Even the utilities, where do the utilities get it from? They don't get it from their own pocket.
No.
You see?
Like you said,
Yeah.
you pay them a month, and there's a little rebate column too. So you're paying them to give someone solar.
But fuel cells are very, very fascinating technology. There is still use of fossil fuel. You can't just get electricity without fossil fuel. But in general, though, they have this chemical process that really creates electricity. You have electrolytes, and then you've got, it's sandwiched between the two plates, and hydrogen is pumped from one direction and the oxygen is from the other, and something happens, and magic.
It's a bunch of magic inside a box. It gives you electricity and heat.
That's so terrible of me to just put it out like that. Let me see. I can explain. Hold on. Well, first of all, they're also very diverse, right? So like the ranges that they can come in is from 5 kW to like 2800 kW. And then obviously, like everything else, you can put them multiple ones together parallel, right? And have a lot more available power, right? So what was I gonna look at? I forgot. Yeah. So like I described, so there's a plate on top, it's called anode, and then a cathode is at the bottom, and then the electrolyte plate's in the middle, and then again hydrogen and oxygen is pushed through it, and whatever is in that electrolyte plate, that's the secret, right? You create electricity, but apparently they still produce, because of the chemical reaction, they still reject a lot of heat, and you can capture that. This
produces hydrogen gas that you can burn it up, and you get your high temp exhaust.
Yeah, and it was what is it, 600 degrees or something?
Something like that.
Yeah. I forget. I know it's in this paper. I should have read before. I should have read these before I started.
Highlight a little bit.
Yeah.
I know it's hot enough for making steam, so you can definitely make hot water as well.
That's true for all the other technologies we've talked so far too.
Yeah.
Both the microturbines and the reciprocating engines. But here's why you wouldn't want them. The bloody installation cost.
How much is it?
We talked. So it was $2,500 for the
turbines.
For the reciprocating engine. I think the turbines was more expensive.
Turbines are 25. I think yours was a little less than that.
2350.
Yeah.
Yes. And this is 10,000 for a 300 kW unit.
Paying like 4 times as much almost.
Oh, and then you ready for the O&M cost? It's 4.5 instead of 1.9. That was the reciprocating engine, and then what was it? 1.2. 4.5. Yeah. Why would you want this thing? And you know why it is so expensive? There may be one or two companies that do it.
Yeah.
You remember? I don't know if we had this conversation on our podcast, or if it's some of those conversations when I was running my mouth as usual, just you and I. Remember Bloombox? I told you about a Bloombox?
Yes.
Bloom Bloody Box makes this.
Yeah, that's basically what it is.
That's basically. No, but now there's a Korean company. Oh, its name is in here somewhere. It has to be. Missions and Fuel Department. Sorry, fellas, I'm just running my mouth as I'm going through this paper. But there's a new company out there that's starting some competition, so there's like probably going to bring up cost down. Doesn't really say in here, but it's got a cool name too. It's a South Korean company, and shoot, it's not in here. Maybe it's.
We can post it onto our notes.
Show notes. I will show you where that is. But anyway, so but you know what? If you're a rich guy, really wealthy, you're listening to this, you know, you can. I know a couple of very smart engineers who could totally like put a team together and reverse engineer all these 3 technologies and bring the cost down. Because, you know, libertarians tend to be anti-IP, right? And we're all for it. We'll go into the ocean, you know, set up in the ocean and hire a bunch of engineers and reverse engineer the hell out of this shit, and we'll create it. We'll make it happen.
Yeah, like with reciprocating engines.
That's easy.
Probably even turbines. Like reciprocating engines, you can probably go anywhere, and I'm sure maintenance. It's a glorified engine. Just
it definitely is. That's exactly it.
A fuel cell, you're not gonna go to your local shop and have someone fix this random whatever cathode that's broken or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably like it's broken. Do you just replace it? I mean, I guess that's it too. You probably need specialists that can work on it. And I'm sure that's why it's like that 4.5 cents per kW.
According to the Department of Energy, it's very reliable. You know, I don't know how they.
But when it breaks, it's
so.
Not
Department of Energy says fuel cells use an electrochemical process with few moving parts and offer high reliability. While mechanical wear is not an issue, fuel cells do require periodic replacement or refurbishment of catalyst and fuel cell stacks. So it's and think about that's why the cost is so high, because they're expensive. They're proprietary stuff, right? I mean, I can take a bolt or something, right? A gear, or any part of my the engine block out of the engine, right? Give it to any guy in the neighborhood, right? And have them mill it for me. You can't do that with these.
No, they probably have like some special fitting.
Yeah.
That just makes it inconvenient and impossible to use someone else's.
Yeah, it's much more involved, I feel like, and it takes a lot of space. Fuel cells, another problem with fuel cells is they're not all that compact, especially when you get in the bigger sizes, right? So you could have a 1 microturbine that got 65 kilowatt and it's only 2-3 feet wide and maybe 6 or 7 foot long and then 6 foot tall. That's all that takes, right? They're less on noise too. That's another thing. Okay, fuel cells are much quieter, but then you have your microturbines have at a 10 meter apparently, and one of the companies, the dBA sound pressure rating, not power, sound pressure is at 65 dBA. So 10 meters, what, 33, 4 feet, something like that, 35, around there. And but the reciprocating engines are much louder, right?
Yeah, you probably don't want to be standing too close without
No,
protection.
no. So there is that disadvantage too. And I don't know. I feel like we talk too much negatively about the reciprocating engines, and I didn't intend to do that, but that we did find these things.
It's good technology.
It's good technology. It's
I
been
guess
around for a while.
Not as exciting as some of the others.
Others.
I think that's why it's
Yeah.
easier to come up with negatives.
I-
But it's reliable. It's obviously more efficient.
It's reliable. So question becomes, how come then microturbines don't use biodiesel or biofuels?
Fashion, it's just cost, right? I don't know why else.
Yeah. And
Plus,
they do require higher gas pressure too.
Yeah.
So if you had a certain pressure in the street, you may need boosters to.
There's already natural gas lines through most cities.
Yeah.
But you probably you'd have to go out of your way to find some biogas, I'm sure.
That's more difficult, right? The supply is limited.
Yeah.
The suppliers are limited. You right out here, you can go 5 different companies to say, hey, I need oil delivery.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, they're fighting for business, basically.
Yeah. Not so much on the, I don't know, compressed natural gas, but oil and diesel and those things, easy, right? And so I'm not sure I've ever seen a delivery truck that said this is vegetable oil, recycled vegetable oil. I've never seen one. So how do you get it?
Back in my college days, one of my friends had, he converted his engine to run off of vegetable oil, like used cooking oil, basically.
Yeah, sure.
He would just go around to restaurants and
pick some up.
Pick it up. They were, instead of throwing it away, they would basically give it to him.
Yeah. But see, that's not, you can't do that when you're running a city, empowering a city. Yeah.
Stuff.
Yeah.
I guess you would have to set up contracts with, you get some third-party company that goes around to all the restaurants, picks up oil, filters it maybe, make sure it's good quality, and tries to sell it. But they have to do all that for cheaper than what you get gas for.
That's right. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Right.
I guess
That's
a
right.
good thing, you might get your product for free, but any
delivery, processing, filtration,
time.
right?
Yeah.
So okay, so all those factors do weigh in. I see. We'll see if microturbines are not as widely accepted as the reciprocating engines, nor are the fuel cells, and for the right reasons.
Yeah.
But we'll see how future holds.
I guess it's that the CHP in general. It really does have a pretty good market, and it's much smaller scale, much more maneuverable and configurable than massive power plants. Plus, if if you have a block or citywide power grid, it's probably going to be a lot more reliable than some statewide or multi-statewide system.
I'm just doing math real quick on how much 40 kW is in BTU. So it's
Whoa, I did something wrong.
1200 and change.
So 40 times 3, what is it, 3412?
Yeah.
Yeah. 40, oops. 40 times 3, 4, 1, 2 equals, where'd it go? 136,000 BTUs. That's, so a typical house in a New England requires roughly, this is just a general estimate, about 30 BTUs per square foot. So if I divide this by 30, that means I did something wrong. This calculator sucks.
One aspect while you do that I'll touch on with the fuel cells is that it is very low emissions. It's like a fraction of what the microturbine and reciprocating engine produce. So I guess that's the
Okay, wait. I didn't think it was that far off. Okay, I just want to talk about CO2 real quick. CO2 emission. Okay, it says if it was electrical only, it's 1,000 parts per million.
That part is not. Yeah, it's more or less.
Okay,
zero.
and so that's what's important to me, and to a lot of people, to Democrats, not me. No, I think carbon is life. CO2 is essential. CHP with thermal credit is 555. What do you have for
764?
So I mean, come on, doesn't make sense at all.
I think it's when you look into the other than CO2, your other emissions.
NOx and carbon monoxide is like 0.01, 0.02, and I think you were right there as well.
Like 9 and 40 and stuff like that.
Pounds per.
Yeah, it's like 1 and 0.4.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The pounds per megawatt hour. NOx is 0.01. What do you have?
0.4.
Okay, so it's not terribly far off. In the grand scheme of things, right?
Yeah.
Air is,
yeah,
air. And carbon monoxide is 0.02.
1.08.
Okay, so that's higher on that side, but still, it's even 1.2 is nothing.
Yeah.
And then VOCs is 0.02 here.
0.11.
0.11. Okay, so
Like
I'm not convinced, man. I'm not convinced with fuel cells at all.
That's its selling point.
Look, if the fuel cells cost nearly, okay, maybe with a 15% markup on what the microturbines cost with the CHP, sure.
So I think
I'll give you that.
the only time, I guess, to make it more economical is when, even if you put a carbon tax on stuff, it's not necessarily going to swing it to make it better than the other technologies.
Yeah. I find it, at least that, we know that we have these options.
Yep.
Right? And that, yeah, so I just finished my math. It took me forever. Windows 10, I'm not a big fan. I could heat up on a very cold day, like -9 degree day. I could heat 4,500 square foot with it. That's just one microturbine. That's pretty good. It could be a big pool.
Yeah.
That I could heat.
Charge people to swim in the winter time, and you can.
Yeah. Incredible savings. So, all right. What else do you want to touch on?
I think in general, with, I guess, energy of the future, it's probably going to be a mix of everything. I don't think it's going to be everyone going out and buying turbines or fuel cells. It'll be, maybe you have your fuel cells or turbines, and then you also have probably some solar and wind to hit your other peaks. I mean, if you have solar, obviously when it's producing a lot is also probably when you have a high cooling load. So if you might be able to use all these other technologies to meet your demands. But I mean, I don't think there's one single answer for everyone.
Right. Every situation is different. So there's options out there.
Yeah.
I think the reason why I kind of wanted to do this podcast is if you are seasteading, libertarians, there is a circle that talks about it often. And they talk about, a whole bunch of us living in the ocean somewhere, right? and it's kind of like Free State Project, New Hampshire. Whoop. See, I plugged it right in there, man. So when that happens, how do they power? Because you can't run power lines. Burying power lines into the ocean is impossible, nearly, right? I would guess nothing is impossible, but you know what I'm saying.
Be fairly inefficient.
And very expensive, and then someone can cut it off.
Yep.
Right. If you can't buy oil from the United States, you might be able to buy it from Mexico, or Cuba, or Haiti, or
whatever country you cruise by.
Yeah, or Somalia for that matter. Okay. But if you have a line that's coming right through a power plant in South Carolina, good freaking luck.
Yeah.
Right? You can't do it. It's just not the right thing to do. Right? You want to be out of that system, and to be out of that system is to find other ways. So for a floating city like that, you need fuel cells, or microturbine, or reciprocating engines, or solar, or wind.
Wind's probably pretty. Obviously, it's gonna not always be there, but it's probably fairly there.
Maybe we'll have another podcast on that subject, because I find them to be just ridiculous.
I guess too, if you're in the ocean, you try to get some tidal power.
But that's also non-reliable. Sometimes there's no tide.
No, that's why you need a mix.
Yeah, you need a mix. You need a backup plan. Mixture of things. Not against it. I'm just against all welfare, man. The subsidies that pay for the solar systems and wind turbines and things like that. No way. I'm just so sick of it. Because government doesn't pay for it. Utility companies don't pay for it. You and I do. That's not okay. Not without my consent.
So this is.
And I do not give consent.
Off subject, sort of, but now like cities are creating these like climate action plans.
Yeah.
New York City semi-recently passed theirs. I guess it's a law. It's like local law 97, and the whole point, I think in like 2024, they set this cap by like building type of. They use some weird. They're using like kilograms of CO2 per square foot of building. So, like offices will be something, hospitals will be something, schools, residences will be something else. So like if they have to be under this value they set, I'm sure by very specific means. But if you're over it, they're charging, I think something like $260 per ton of CO2 over limit. So if you are in excess, like I think they're fining you, and they're also fining you if you fail to report. So like if you.
Oh my God.
It might not have this right, but it's like 50 cents per square foot of your building if you fail to report. And I was looking through it some, and one thing that I thought was interesting is like obviously they have some building types have exemptions, like your churches, places of prayer have exemptions. But then also rent-controlled buildings have exemptions too, which like I'm guessing the only reason you would do it is like if someone wants to make their building more efficient, they're probably going to charge their tenants more money so they can pay for the building upgrades. But obviously, because rent control,
you can't do that.
Right.
Yeah.
But in that case, then
it just make me sick to my stomach.
Yeah, move out of New York City. Anyone who is in there.
Oh my God.
Or that's
chokehold. That's the tightest chokehold I've ever heard of by the state. I thought the income tax was a chokehold.
It's crazy. I haven't figured out if it's like a reasonable set point. I'm sure it's not too reasonable. I'm sure they're trying to obviously get people to upgrade their buildings.
Joe, anything state does is never reasonable. No.
But I was thinking, if you have an office building and you're a little bit over, the easiest way to cut your usage is to cut your operating hours.
Yeah.
So that's it. Like, are you gonna invest in LED lights or glazing, or are you just gonna cut your hours? Maybe, instead of having people work 40 hours, you cut them down to 30. You could potentially cut like 25% of your electricity right there.
So what's going to be interesting is to see the cost implication of this, the economics of this,
Yeah.
right? There, it's easy to make laws, right?
It's easy to make it sound like a great, we're
Yeah.
going to reduce our emissions by
Yeah,
setting
but
these
someone has to
laws.
pay for it,
That's just it,
right?
like,
Cars used to be, less regulated per se, and I'm not even talking 50, 60 years. I'm talking the last couple of decades. And so they came, and then they're starting to regulating, say, hey, you've got to meet this arbitrary EPA standard. In other words, your carbon footprint from your exhaust cannot be more than this and that, and your mileage for your vehicle cannot exceed, based on the classes, right? So what that did is that made the manufacturers, or they forced them to reduce the weight of the car, right? Because internal combustion engine has this inefficiency, and you cannot increase it just because someone wrote a law. It's physics, guys. What goes in, there's an input, and then there's an output. Okay?
Yeah.
You can't just arbitrarily set those standards. So then they had to do that, and then obviously changing, from steel to aluminum, there's a cost associated with that, right? And reducing all kinds of things. And so what does that do to a consumer? A car that you used to be able to lease or buy for $16,000 is now $26,000, right? Because some lobbyist got in there.
That's more efficient, Goshi. What would they get? Maybe like 22.
Yeah, but who paid for it?
They did, of course.
Yeah.
Everyone did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at what cost? That's the question I'm asking. Right? There are guys who drive cars all day, and then there are guys who just get in the car half a mile down the road and they stop there and that's it, right? But they have to pay for it too. What? Yeah. Anything else you want to add?
That's it.
We're almost hitting an hour, man. We might be able to wrap this up within an hour.
Pretty good.
All right, good. Well,
Good goal.
we typically talk about gadgets, and we haven't done it in a while. So I think let's not make a promise, but let's make an effort next time to include a gadget in the future episodes. And until then, goodbye.
Please subscribe to us via iTunes, Stitcher, Google Music, and YouTube. And visit us on engineering.tech. This was Engineering Tech Show.